Welcome into this week's edition of Talking Tech. Joe Hamilton, College Football Hall of Famer. Myself, not a College Football Hall of Famer, Sean Nerny. Here this week, Turkey Day edition of Talking Tech here. Breaking down last week's win against NC State and looking forward to this weekend. Clean old-fashioned hate against UGA. Kickoff at noon from down at Bobby Dodd Stadium. Joe Ham, let's start with last week's big win over NC State. I think it started off really good for the offense in the first half. You saw James Graham connecting downfield. 2 touchdowns to Amarian Brown, who continues to just find himself open down the field. And, the offense really looked good. Defense, a big stand in the second half to stop that 2-point conversion. And then I think you were really impressed with the way that Georgia Tech finished the game out.
Yeah, I think if you're Coach Collins, it happened the way you wanted to happen. Everybody got tested. You got up early, which was good, started fast. And then you face some adversity, and to be able to respond from that. And don't take it for granted now. That muffed punt, that turnover there, that was a sky kick. That was so high up in the air that I consider that one of those forced turnovers. Right. A lot of people would say that's just a returner giving you a break. I see it a little bit differently. But when you happen to have a stop on a 2-point conversion, Nerny, and then rely on your offense to not give the ball back against a defense that's tired, fatigued, not feeling, up to par because they're giving up a comeback, and to end it with the ball in your hands, it shows growing spurts. It's showing you're able to trust those young guys to know and lean on things going forward. Very, very, very good momentum. And, oh, by the way, some recruits had their official,
right,
not an unofficial, official visits on that weekend.
Yeah,
in that game.
A great game to have recruits on the flats. I'll go back to James Graham a little bit because obviously coming off a poor showing the entire team was against Virginia Tech in the previous week. James Graham, it wasn't so much with just the way he was throwing the ball. The deep routes were obviously there, but I think the way that he kind of commanded the offense, running that zone read at the line of scrimmage, whether he's handing it off to Mason, it seemed like he made the right decision every single time during those zone reads.
Yeah, you're right on it, Nerny, and I think he made those decisions quicker.
Right.
He didn't let things string out. I mean, whether he's going to pull it, whether he's right or wrong, make a decisive move, and he showed a little bit of his comfortability. And why I say that, when you start making decisions very fast, that means to me things are slowing down. You're getting more comfortable. And those short to intermediate passes, I think he finished 7 for 15 total. He'll get that. We want that percentage to be up around 60, 65%, and he'll get that with learning the receivers. And one more thing. At some point in time next year in his future and in the future of a quarterback for the Yellow Jackets, you want to get away from having to look to the sideline and getting the checks. Because right now they're not developed in the scheme quite yet, and now you're looking to the sideline and then coming back because that's all time, and you want your quarterback to be able to call some things if you can from the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I want to talk about, this is kind of a big picture subject, but I kind of want to talk about, especially after this past weekend, the receiving corps. Now, we talk about the areas of lack of depth really on the Georgia Tech roster. Well, there's 2 areas that there is no lack of depth, in my opinion. And one of them is receiving corps. The other is in the secondary, where you have a bunch of playmakers. The receivers this year, Amarian Brown, Sanders, Jalen Camp got injured early in the game, Malachi Carter. These receivers, and don't forget next year, Marquise Ezzer, the transfer from Miami. There is a lot to work with. True freshman Amarian Brown. What makes this guy, so 2 more touchdowns against NC State, what makes this guy so dangerous?
Well, speed. Speed kills every day of the week. And then when you look at 7-on-7 in the summer. A lot of people don't like it. It's a high school coach. College coaches don't value it too much because the quarterbacks get a lot of time and there's no buzzer going off. You can have some false sense of security. But for the wide receivers, there are no negatives. You learn how to create, to run routes. I'm talking about the full route tree, the combination of flag route or corner post or post corner. You're sticking your feet in the ground and reps. Understand the reps, and even Malachi Carter and some of these guys that's on the field, Sanders, the different concepts, the timing. Some of those throws are James Graham, some of those routes are on the receivers and their depth and how far they're running it downfield. And oh, by the way, I know he's a senior, add the tight end to the group of mix, Tyler Davis, and where you're able to recruit. Ezra being in the system, all of a sudden is going to be looking towards the future. And you mentioned one more thing that I would like to get into right now, Nerny. How different already are the Yellow Jackets going to be looking in September? When you're talking about Clayton, He's in the program. He just can't play. That's going to be a great body jumping off the bus. What about the transfer Sanders from Michigan?
Right.
The cornerback. He's going to be looking good. Power
Miles Sims.
I'm sorry, Miles Sims.
And he's been out there. He's been out there. He started off slow this year, but the last couple games he has shown, and he's another big body in that secondary.
Absolutely. So now you're talking about you don't have to necessarily go into recruiting some guys to where we're going to see a difference next year is on the roster already.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, and guys, think about just the youth of this roster as well. Talk about only having 10 or so seniors on the roster, but guys like Amari Brown, he was in high school a year ago, and right now he's out there doing this thing for Georgia Tech. All right, let's look forward to Saturday's big matchup. Clean old-fashioned hate. UGA obviously coming in big-time favorites in the ball game. I think it's 28 points or somewhere around there. Listen, I don't think either of us are going to sit here and say Georgia Tech's going to outright win this football game, but I think there are things Georgia Tech can do to limit kind of the playmakers on the Georgia offense and take advantage of the Georgia defense where, much like Georgia Tech, very talented in the secondary, up front, not getting quite the pass rush that most SC you would expect out of a Georgia front seven. But what are some of the things you think Georgia Tech's offense can do to have success this weekend?
Well, they're going to have to be extremely creative.
Right.
And I don't mean gimmick, but you're going to have to think outside the box as far as getting first downs, Nerny. Just first downs. So when you do that, short fields, you can't drive 80. How do you find opportunities to get explosives, move Amari Brown around a little bit to take shots down the field? Continue to power Jordan Mason up in there to where it's not 3rd and 8+, 3rd and long, because then Kirby's going to draw something up as far as blitzes and disguising coverages. So down and distance being manageable, being able to strike and not necessarily take and call big plays, capitalize on them. And oh, by God, you cannot turn the ball over. You cannot turn the ball over, and I think that'll give the Yellow Jackets a chance. And don't carry it home. The season's going to be over Saturday at about 4 o'clock. So any trick plays, anything that you think maybe would work in the game, and you're performing it well in practice, call it in the game. No need to take it home.
Yeah, and on as far as the defense goes, as a Tech fan myself, I'm praying that Jake Fromm and company decided to come out and, been a lot of talk of, this is Georgia's get-right game where they can come out and open the playbook, throw the ball downfield. Please. As a Georgia Tech fan, come out there and try to throw the ball against our secondary.
Get cute on us.
Because personally, you've seen teams recently do it, attack the front seven of Georgia Tech, and they've had some success doing that. If Georgia comes out with the game plan that they're going to try to throw the football, I think that best suits Georgia Tech.
Right. And if I'm coaching Georgia right away and I don't want to coach them, I would try to treat it as a get healthy game.
Right.
Not looking over any opponent, but making sure I can go in the LSU game healthy. I would sit Lawrence Cager, anybody with nicks and bruises, I would kind of have them get healthy. And what I'm looking for right now, Nerny, and I'm not a moral victory guy, on Saturday, I'm looking for Jake Fromm to play into the 4th quarter. If Jake Fromm is still playing in the 4th quarter on Saturday afternoon, I feel real comfortable with what the Jackets has put on film.
Well, I'll say this. If Lawrence Cager's not out on the football field for UGA, I really like Georgia Tech's chances in the secondary. In that situation, I'm manning up across the board and sending extra pressure because we've seen that UGA offense is not the same monster when they don't have Lawrence Cager on.
Get me fired up there, Nerny.
It's going to be fun to watch, man. It's going to be fun to watch on Saturday afternoon, noon kickoff down at the Flats. He's Joe Ham. I'm Sean Nerny. Thanksgiving Day edition of Talkin Tech. We'll be back a week from today to kind of wrap up and go over the season as a whole for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Until then, have a good one.